Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about the Vorax League mechanic for Torchlight's new season. So it turns out this league's mechanic is a mini game, sort of a card game followed up by a round of waves of monsters, and at the end you get loot. These are personally my favorite leagues, Canvas, Mistville, so we'll also make a video for this one because I've been farming it basically non-stop for the last few days. I know this can be a little bit confusing, so I will try to do my best to structure it, tell you everything about the basics, and then go into actual examples, and I'm going to give you two archetypes that you can play almost every time. Now, during the map, you will encounter monsters, and if you kill them, you will get these vials. You need a total of 12 vials to start up a new game. It will tell you right here, and you can store up to 48. Once you want to do a run, you click on the vial, and then you get to this screen right here. Now, start a new game, you don't have any surgical instruments. Surgical instruments only drop from the boss. You might have encountered him. It's the guy that just one-shots you randomly or leaves behind a dot that does like a bajillion damage. And if you kill him, you get a instrument. And then you start the round out with something special. And if you don't, then you don't. That's going to happen most of the time. So now you press here, start, and you're going to start with a new board. Now, this is a pretty funny layup right here for a run, but I will quickly show you the ropes. So on the left side, you can see right here, there are rounds. So in total, we have 13 rounds with 10 rounds of them being gameplay and then 3 non-gameplay exclusive. I will talk through all that while we're going through a run. And there are 4 different archetypes. So for example, if you look right here on the left side, you can see next reward. You're going to get something that doesn't matter right now. This is your point bar, which you want to get to 1 million or higher if you can. And then you also have rewards obtained. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is these are 6 types of monsters that you will be interacting with. These are the monsters you face at the end. And the bigger you make them during this card game, the more loot it will return. These monsters have 3 important stats if you hover over them. The first one is the type of the monster, which is pest. There are 4 different types that you'll be interacting with: pests, bone sentry, agitos, and amberon. I'll show you why that matters, but there's basically cards that interact with them. After that, you have the total activity, which is bad wording because activity comes down here again. I know it's very confusing. It's a translation. It is what it is. Just take these as the total points of whatever group of monsters this is. This is a group of monsters. That's how it's called in this well-translated game. Now, and the last one here is activity and quantity, or how I call it red and quantity. So what happens here is your total points you get by multiplying these 2 numbers. And you're going to be interacting with those numbers, shooting up activity a little bit, shooting up quantity. You basically want a good balance of both. Important as well is this is a rare, which you will also be interacting with what that means. And then you have, for example, here, this is a normal monster, as you can see, and this is also a normal monster. This has 1 times 36, 1 times 36, 15 times 12. And as you can see, rares come with different stats than magic monsters, come with different stats than white monsters. What you begin with at the start is completely random unless you have what I said, you fought the boss and you start out with something special, but that does not matter. For now, you'll see that on your own. Now, here's the thing. We want to now push our rewards up over time. We're going to be picking cards here to make these numbers go higher. But you need to understand where we're going. If you look at the reward overview, it will give you extra rewards. Red, like you can see right here, the rewards upgrade. They go from the usual purple into red, all the way into rainbow reward. Okay, cool. Now, at the start, the most important breakpoints though are 8,000 and 28,000. Here it says obtain 1 surgical instrument. This is a surgical instrument right here. You pick one right at the start, like I will do right now, but you can get 2 more. And these are going to be your global effects. They will go right up here when I pick them. So for example, right now I will pick Chrysalis Specimen, but as you can see right here, these interact with different things. Now I'm gonna pick Chrysalis Specimen. This one interacts with my pets and it's already the first archetype. I will be talking about that. It's a pretty lucky one. Then I don't have to go through my VOD. And as you can see right here, now we're in the first round. And these are normal cards. We're still in round 1 because these surgical instruments you're just picking. They do not count as cards. You're going to pick throughout these rounds. We're going to pick 10 different gameplay cards, which are these right here. And at the end, there's 3 other ones where you can increase your value. We're going to talk about that when we get to it. Okay, so there's 4 different archetypes. These surgical instruments are super important and you want to get to them as fast as possible. and you need to push your early numbers up. It is nice to set up for later, but you just want to push your numbers up. At 8,000, you're going to get another one of these, and then at 28,000, another one. Now, there are a few keywords to note, and we're going to go through them while I'm playing this round and explaining the first archetype, which is going to be pests. But yeah, let's start out. So it's going to be a lot of rating. So for example, you can see what these cards do. 40 quantity to one random group of monsters if they're bone sentries. So bone sentries is a different archetype. Maybe we'll see them throughout this round, otherwise later. But it also removes one group of monsters, which can have upsides depending on what your surgical tool does. Okay, cool. This one gives you another monster. So this would be an Agito, different archetype that spawns right here. And then we have this card, which mutates. Now, what does mutate do? It transforms a monster into... So when it refers to group of monster, because translation in this game, it means this. That's a group of monsters. Just so we're aware, it doesn't mean several of these. They look like they're just one, but it's a group of monsters. Mutate is rough because it will completely change your monster and your archetype. So for example, if I press this right now, I have a chance to transform this pest into, for example, an Agito right here, and it would also get a different rarity. However, the activity and the quantity stay the same. So even if I don't know, randomly roll into a normal monster, this will not change. Now, depending on how many rerolls you have, you can be more aggressive or less aggressive. In this case, I'm going to be quite aggressive and reroll right here. Now, here is where it gets interesting. So I'm clearly going to play pests. I've started with 3 pests. I have this Chrysalis specimen, which is the first build that I'm going to be talking about. At the end of the round, you get quantity equals to the amount of pests that you have. And it takes, so for example, if I have 3 times, it's going to roll and give 3 groups of monsters 8 quantity. So if I have 6, that goes into Crazy Town. So I'm going to try to spam my board as much as possible. However, I also need to push my points up. And if I just spawn more monsters, that doesn't give me a lot of points. However, you can see right here, this is, for example, a 136. So what I want to do here is increase the amount of activity I have, right? So I want this number to go up so it multiplies with the big number. And that's kind of the name of the game. So I'm going to do this right now. It says 2 monsters of the same rarity. I'm going to pick this, and these are both normal, so they're both going to get affected. And I want to push my numbers up as soon as possible because I want to get to that 8,000. Once again, 8,000 and 28,000 is where I'm going to get more of these tools, which are going to snowball out of control. Now, next up, this is a very, very strong card in certain archetypes. Select a group of monsters, and then you get a ton of quantity, but you remove 2 groups of other archetypes. We do not have other archetypes, so this is a pure setup. So, for example, if you clicked a 154, you want to put it on the monster or the group that has the most activity, because this goes here and it multiplies with the other number. So we're, for example, going to put it right here. Boom, and now we're getting a ton of points. As you can see, my score is going up, and I hit the 8,000, so now I can pick one of these. Now, in this archetype, what you're looking for is a scalar for activity, as you can see right here. That is because you get a ton of quantity, but you can have all the quantity in the world, right? Like this 15, I don't know, this number could go up to like 500, but it would still only multiply with 15. If I get that up to like 200-ish though, then we're talking. Now, what you're looking for here is something that gives you activity. Unfortunately, this one is not very good for his archetype, so I'm going to reroll. I found the first piece that is quite strong. There are 2 things we're looking for. There's either Foul Scraper or there's the belt. If you've never seen the belt, this is the one. Tanned Leather Restraint. When you have normal, magic, and elite monsters at the same time, 20 activity to all monsters each round. So that is very, very strong. As you can see right here, in this run in the background, I have a rare, I have a normal, and I have a magic. Now, epic or like boss monster, which is red, also counts towards elite, so you can also have a boss monster instead. So the scraper gives me 20 activity to monsters at the end that have quantity higher than 275. So it's not as good as the belt out of the gate, but catches up later once my quantity goes higher right here. This one is almost already there. So I'm going to take the Foul Scraper, and it does not cost a round. Once again, these do not cost a round. They're just global buffs. So here we are. In this case, what I would want to look for is get extra pests. However, this one's quite good. It gives me a little bit of extra activity per pest that I have. So I click it, and now I'm going to get to 28,000, which is my next one. Now, just so you know, this is a pretty lucky run. I did not script this, like you saw, this will not always happen. This is an extremely lucky run. And I got a second foul scraper. So we're going to take that here. And that is kind of it. Now, here's, for example, another mechanic where I get additional groups of monsters, add one group of pests, 50% chance for 2 extra. I did not hit the 50%. And from here on out, it's pretty smooth sailing. In this case, I'm going to hope and high roll another one right here. And I did not. Okay, so we lost a 50% again. Should not really matter. This is very nutty. Now, here, all I have to do is get extra activity, get extra quantity, and this is mostly the easiest archetype because of that. Once again, I'm getting more quantity. In this case, I'm going to put it on probably this guy, so he gets pushed. Actually, yeah, I'm going to put it on this guy, so he gets pushed over the edge, so he can get to the 275 breakpoint and start getting some activity. So I'm going to put that there, boom. And from here on out, we're just going to go pretty nuts. I can add my last pest. Now, I didn't really find much of the other keywords. I really hope I will, so I don't have to go look through the VOD. But yeah, as you can see, at the end of turn, stuff is happening, and it shows you here exactly. Oh, I found a keyword. So awaken is another keyword that can happen, that you can interact with the board with. It upgrades the rarity of a monster, and that gives you extra activity. So once again, activity is the left side of the multiplier. And this is a very valid way to play the game. In fact, there is a surgical instrument that keeps upgrading your monsters, and it is another way to scale your activity just to the absolute moon. It's one of the strongest ones you can get, a little bit rarer than the others, but there you are. That is a valid way to play the game, and we'll talk about that in the second setup that we're gonna do. In this case, there's nothing special here. Now, at this stage, I will just take a random card. If you have rerolls left and you're maybe in a pickle and you don't know if you're gonna make it, then you can also reroll. But in my case, I'm doing pretty damn well. And I know not everybody has rerolls, so we're just gonna leave it at that. And I'm going to get the upgrades and slowly but surely scale. Now here, there's not much else to do. I'm just going to throw some extra stuff there. Also, I throw this in here. If you ever get red cards, they are very special, rare cards that do something very outrageous usually. And often they will just win you the game outright if you just read them. I haven't seen all of them myself yet, and I couldn't find them all. So there's no reason to talk about them. Just take them as you go. In this case, I'm just going to get a little bit extra quantity. This is a very boring archetype, as you can see, but it works. It works every single time. And if the scraper was a belt, for example, then we would have been even better here. So at the end, we have these kind of cards, which you can sacrifice a monster and then add new ones that also has very interesting properties. But yeah, from here on out, we're just going to get some extra this. In this case, I'm going to get some extra activity. Yeah, so let's put that here wherever it is the best, probably here because it has the highest multiplier in quantity. It has the same rarity, so I actually have to put it on white. So now 2 of the same rarity, get that, boom. And as you can see, now we reached round 10, and this is where the game is basically over. You will note right here that I did not reach 1 million, but that will happen over the next 3 turns because end of turn effects still keep happening while you're picking these gameplay related cards. So what these will do is they will give you extra obstacles throughout killing the monsters at the end while they're in their vials. And there is something called risk. So surgical risk just means that if you defeat more monsters, you get extra activity on top, which that's a little bit confusing. But what it means is while you're killing monsters, you can get this score even higher. So if you end at, let's say, 500,000, that does not mean you're going to end up at 500,000. You could still reach the next tier if you kill the monsters and you don't die. If you die, then that's bad. But in this case, I'm just going to take this. Do be aware, the laser is very rippy. All the other ones are mostly avoidable. And as you can see, even though we're technically done, my end of turn effects are still going off and we're still going to get to that rainbow card. In this case, if you can do it, you should always go surgical risk high to get extra points. Unless you already have like 1 million plus points, then there's no real reason to make your life harder. All right, so now we got 13 points. Important to note here is that we got the rainbow card not right here, but you will see that we will obtain it because we get extra activity while we're doing the mechanic. All right, here it is. So I go in, and you click on this and you will see there is some obstacles on the ground. This is one of those harder cards. It will even show you what it does. And on the left side right here, you can see a yellow number and a green number. The yellow number is the points that you realize of the cards that you just did. So for example, at the end, the yellow number will exactly line up with what you made throughout the round. And the green card is extra. So that's what's going to push me over the edge to get to that rainbow card. And some of these are longer. Some of them are, yeah, it depends on the rarity of the monsters. It depends on the type of the monsters. You can see the second card just activated. It's these ripples, but I can just stay in the middle mostly. I'm fine. And the third card activated. This is a pretty easy setup. And you can see the rewards, they're getting higher and higher. Now, it is important to note that some of the reward tiers towards the end seems like you don't upgrade, but you actually get 15% more quantity, for example, here. So, yeah. Also important to note, you can always abandon the run. So, for example, I will be hitting the rainbow right now. And usually I could keep killing monsters, but I can also abandon because after rainbow, there is no extra mods anymore. And this is where I have my loot. So on the right side right here, on the left side right here, this was a really good run. And I have the pet. So this is going to be an absolute crap ton of explosion. Do note that it matters what type of content you did this in. So I did this in Profound, and I also used Scalpels, which we'll also be talking about. So let's do this again. Boom. Now, the second archetype is a little bit harder. Pests, you can usually somehow make work. If you have the Chrysalis at the start, you can make it work. This one is a little bit more complex and a little bit more nuanced. I will go over this run that I had on stream in the background and pause sometimes, but here's what happens. So here I have Chrysalis and I have the Claw, Contracted Claws. So I like the Chrysalis archetype the most, but the second archetype that I play almost all the time when it comes up is Claws. If I see either of these in my opening, I will take them every single time. The other ones I have explored, but I don't have a surefire way for you to win. Do note that there is a lot of other strats out there. These are just the ones I'm going to share today. Now, Contracted Claws is super important. When removing a monster that is not a Bone Sentry, a random group of monsters gets 150 something. I think it was exactly 150 quantity. So the number here at the end, plus 150. If it's a non-Bone Sentry. If you remove Bone Sentry, nothing happens. Okay. These are Bone Sentries. These are Agitos. Okay. Cool. So sounds pretty fun, right? So you're going to have to remove stuff. But it gets more intricate than that, and we're going to look through that during this run. Now, pests alone are not going to carry you. These archetypes are important. They're what I call fuse runs, right? So all you need to understand is in this game, as I said, there are two numbers, activity and quantity. They multiply together and give you a score, and that is going to be determining your loot. So you want to push the score up, and one of the ways to do that is by fusing. There is combining, so you can combine two monsters with certain cards and abilities. All you need to understand is basic math. Two monsters with 100 times 100, so if it said 100 times 100 here and another one 100, 100, would come out to 20,000 in total. Pretty basic. But if you combine them, it's 200 times 200, which is 40,000. So you actually doubled your points. If you see people linking runs with 5 to 10 million, most likely they will come from this kind of behavior. And the second rule is that Devour and Fuse counts as remove. So Devour and Fuse will both combine monsters, as I said here, but they also count as remove, so you're also getting the advantage of the claws. So this one will give you a ton of extra quantity. I'll actually show you a different run because that one was a little bit too perfect, a little bit too unrealistic, and very lucky. This one, I start with a surgical instrument. So this is if you kill a boss randomly, you sometimes get a surgical instrument. In this case, you get 6 groups of random monsters. Now, don't think these are always advantages. It really depends because sometimes they will plaster your board full with stuff that you don't want, depending on what it is. So in this case, I got 6 monsters, a pretty decent lineup, and I got the claws. So I will be picking the claws in this round. So I will be, yeah. So now we start the round. I will have to skip ahead a little bit. Okay. So from here on out, I will be looking to get my points as soon as possible, get to the 8,000 breakpoint and the 28,000 as well. So here's where if I didn't have rerolls, I would probably just pick Bile, but I think I end up rerolling. Yeah. I am rerolling. And here is another card that randomly mutates some stuff. It just gives me some extra points. What you have to know about this archetype is your type of monster here does not matter, which is one of the best things about this archetype. The only thing that matters is that you don't sacrifice Bone Sentries because they don't give you extra quantity whenever you sacrifice it to a claw. Do note that mutating does not count. I'm only doing this to push up my numbers a little bit to get to my first breakpoint. Now, here's where it starts. There's a lot of cards that say remove the monster to the left, but they give something really strong, right? So it's usually a downside, but with this claw, it is not. It is an upside because you also get a random monster quantity. So we'll do that right here, probably on Festerpod, to remove the left one, and then I get a random buff from the claw. So you can see right here, boom, I sacrifice it, and let's see where it landed. It landed right here. And I can see this monster now has 216 quantity, and that was just from the start right here. Now I got to my breakpoint, so I got to 8,000, so I can choose my second instrument. Now, some people here would take the belt. I do not. This is where you start scaling into Obscenity with Black Goat Suture. There is Cortex and Black Goat Suture. They are both extremely strong. Cortex fuses 2 magic monsters, and this one fuses 3 groups of any rarity. So for example, here I will fuse the 3 magic monsters into one another, or 3 random ones, or if I have 3 rares, they will fuse, or if I have 3 normal monsters. And whenever you fuse, you activate the claw because fusing counts as removing, remember, right? And we're just multiplying our numbers and multiplying our numbers. And in this run, my goal will be to fuse everything into one big monster, and let's just see if I do that. I'm pretty sure I take Suture, right, at this point, yeah. Now, at the end of the next round, they're gonna fuse together, so I don't remember exactly what I do here. I think I might just randomly mutate, or yeah. Okay, in this case, I just get a little bit of extra quantity, maybe? I actually end up re-rolling. Okay, so at this point, I just want to get extra points. That one was pretty unnecessary, but yeah, everybody makes mistakes. So I'm just trying to add as many monsters as possible that get fed into this machine that is the Suture I just took. It combines and combines and combines. And all I have to do is to adjust the rarity over and over. So for example, if I wanted this to get eaten, I would have to find a card that makes this into a magic monster, and then it gets combined with the rest. Do note that Suture does not work on bosses for some reason. We haven't seen a boss yet. You will see it. It's going to be red. Those do not combine into each other. I have no idea why, but just FYI, only the lower tier rarities. Okay, so here I go for some extra quantity. This one's really strong, but I don't have a white monster, so it's like, okay, I'll probably just end up re-rolling there and add an extra monster. So here is where it starts combining. You can see it activating, and it will combine these 3 magic monsters into one, and I think it does the same again. No, it does not. Okay, so here it combines. Now, all I'm really looking for is a little bit of extra scaling. So I will just be taking the belt, which in this case was, if I do that, was a pretty bad decision because I know it's gonna go crazy. I still had rerolls, so I should have just rerolled. It is what it is. This is not going to be a diamond run, just so you know, it's slightly before that. And here's where I found one of the craziest cards that you can get. Select 1 to 2 groups of monsters and fuse them into one group. You can pinpoint whatever you want to fuse together. So what you want to fuse together is the highest amount of number that can combine right here. And this is where you will see this rule in action that I told you earlier, where combining monsters will turn out for a lot more money. So right here, what's going to happen is I'm going to combine probably the 2 rare monsters if I do it correctly. Thank God. Okay. Combine them together and we go from 37,000 all the way up to 75,000. And if this was combined into magic, it would have combined again, but it went into a white mob. So let's see what I do after that. So this is where I make a little bit of a blunder, and I will transform this white mob into a magic mob. I should have just kept going. I guess I didn't realize that it was only round 5. I had so much time to set up something way greater, and that's why I'm not going to get to rainbow. I could have easily gotten to rainbow here, just so you know. Take your sweet time. It can be risky, but whatever. So here, this one mutates monsters into random magic monsters. And as you know, there's 2 other magic monsters. It's going to combine with the Suture into one big boy. But it was too early because now I have to rebuild. I could have just like added an extra monster. So you can see right here, that's a really great power spike, but it doesn't matter whether I get this now or later. So I put myself a little bit into a corner right here. There was no reason to do it this early. I'm probably going to reroll or get a little bit of extra activity. Extra activity here would be totally fine. Once again, you have to change your playstyle from how many rerolls you have. And yeah, once again, I don't have a sacrifice target, so I'm kind of screwed. So now all I can really do is add another monster and rebuild the board, which I hope I'm doing here, because otherwise, yeah. So now I'm just going to try to get more monsters. I didn't hit the 50-50 on the extra monsters. And well, what do you do now? Now what I'm going to probably try and do is combine these and make this into a rare. So at this point, I worked myself a little bit into a corner. It is what it is. But I will most likely awaken. Yeah, so here you can see awaken in action and why it's so goddamn strong. And yeah, you click on it and it will upgrade my activity like crazy. And you can see right here, I have 2,000 quantity, but I need more activity to multiply it from. So I think it will literally double my, yeah, it will literally double my activity right here. But yeah, now I'm kind of done. I get a little bit of extra activity at the end. This run could have been done a lot better, but I hope you can learn from my mistakes. Okay, so I gave you a rundown. A lot of this will be learning by doing. Don't despair if you didn't understand half of what I said in this video. Maybe come back to it later once you have a few of your own runs in. But one important thing I want to point out is scalpels. A lot of people are not using these. So right here, there is a compass slot that you can use for scalpels, and they will increase the amount of vial drop quantity. Now, I personally would always recommend, I just sold like 400 of these because they drop so much. Always recommend to at least do the blue one if you're doing the league mechanic. They cost like 1 FE per, and they're definitely worth it. What they do is while you're collecting your vials, those vials would get juicier and juicier the more enemies you kill, and you just throw them in always. The purple one I would only recommend if you at least have the pet, the legendary pet, at some kind of level, and you're doing at least profound. Before that, and even in 8s, I don't know if it's worth it anymore. The currency shot up quite a bit. If you do not do this, your loot will look significantly different. I understand pets and all will affect it as well, but if you're seeing loot explosions, most likely they have been doing every single map with a scalpel, which is most likely what you should be doing as well. As for what I'm farming with this league mechanic, I called it Vorax Rush. I'm doing nothing but just the map and Vorax. I'm not wasting any time whatsoever, and I just go for a very rudimentary baseline setup. So I go for all the resonance nodes here, so I can self-sustain my resonances. I go for embers. I go for every single quant node that I can. I go for the extra rare, whatever. And then I throw in the God of War for a little bit of extra duration right here. And the last point I threw into extra chance to get beacons and also chance to replicate beacons, but you can basically mix and match whatever you want. Do you know that if you add a mechanic into a map that will well, water down how many runs you can do of the league mechanic? So yeah, whether that's actually a good outcome, you can decide for yourself. I'm also going for the extra infusion cards. Right here will be rarer. This gives me chests quite a bit, so that's why I respec into it. And I'm also going for additional drop quantity. At this point, I should probably respec this card for the extra 30% drop quantity right here, but I was dying quite a bit in profounds and I don't want to be annoyed, so that's why I didn't take that. I will link this setup down below in the description. But yeah, that's about all I got. Hope this could clear up a little bit. I know the mechanic is a lot of learning by doing. Just throw yourself in there if you enjoy it. Otherwise, just ignore it, as is tradition with a lot of these mini games. I personally love this league mechanic. I think it is very well done. I think that the Vorax currencies are way too rare. It is incredibly hard to actually craft your Vorax item, but I guess that's kind of what they were going for. But otherwise, I'm really enjoying the league so far. And yeah, that's about all I got. Hope you guys are enjoying as well. And since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.